Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Smallville Meets Krypton. Today, I'm really excited to share with you the interview that I had with my newest sister, Brandie. And before we jump into the interview, today and this week is a special week. 2 years ago this week is when I found and connected with and finally met my birth mom. This was the pinnacle of the experience of searching, of wondering, of asking. And it was such an exciting experience for me, and nerve-wracking experience as well. But as I think about this experience and think about this time, I think about those who are out there who are still wondering about their family, who are still searching, and who are still trying to find that connection to their family. And so my invitation to each of you is to look for ways to help them, look for ways to encourage them, to support them, and to help them feel confident in the decision to find the truth. Because the truth is always best. It's not always the easiest, and it's sometimes the hardest path, but it is always the best. Now, I can't wait for you to have a chance to hear from Brandie's perspective. So I'll turn the time over to that. I am so excited to have the opportunity to introduce you to Brandie and have her share with us her perspective and her side of the story as it pertains to what happened when I kind of introduced myself to the family. So to start with, Brandie, tell us a little about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? Tell us a little about your family.
I live in Tooele, Utah. I'm married. We've been married for 13 years now. I've got four girls. I had to think about that too long. We've got four girls now. Super fun. Yeah.
Perfect. And you've lived in Tooele for how long?
My whole life. So I was born and raised in Tooele. I went to Salt Lake City. I lived there for a few years while I was going to college. Well, as soon as I got married, I moved back out here to Tooele. So born and raised, always been here.
So your entire life, you live just a handful of minutes down the street from me. That's
10 minutes
crazy.
at the most, just from you.
Yeah.
There were only a handful of stores, a handful of gas stations growing up. We could have passed each other numerous times. Twilla
I'm
Grantsville
sure we
game,
did.
it could have happened.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, how long have you known that you had another sibling out there?
I would say 20, 25 years. We knew my mom had told us, hey, I've got this son that I had to give him up for adoption. She told us the whole story. But I don't know if it ever crossed any of our minds to go out and how we would go about the process of finding you. How do we find him? How do we know if he's out there? Is that an option? Are we able to find him, or, with the info that she had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone else who's been through anything like this before? Just even adoption in general?
My very best friend, she adopted two of her children.
Okay.
And yeah, so
What's that
very
been like
close to
for
me.
her? Yeah, what's that been like for her?
Um, an extremely emotional roller coaster. I think it was her and her husband having the chance to try and have kids on their own, and they weren't able to. I think that comes with a lot of emotions. I think a lot of emotions of starting the adoption process. There's a lot of things that go into that, there's a lot of background checks, people coming into your homes. Your whole life is put on the line to be verified to see if you can even have children. There's an emotional side to that. There's a financial side to it that becomes a big burden and a commitment to go through. I also think the commitment and emotional roller coaster coming once you have that child and different stages of them. One's a little bit older now and there's lots of questions being asked, and the openness and truthfulness that they've had with their kids. So I think a
Mm.
lot of emotions.
As I love that this is something or that a close friend of yours has experienced, because I'm curious as you've gone through this process of meeting me and hearing about my perspective and my story. Um, has your friend expressed concern or worry about what if my kids end up like that, or feel that same way or anything like that? Has she ever expressed concern?
Yeah, I think it's more so not really she's ever concerned that her kids are going to they've had a really open conversation with their children. They know that they're adopted, and that's kind of been it the way it has been at the very beginning. They've had everyone has a different situation that they're coming
Mm,
from with adoption. They can be right from when they're born and what's the situation they're coming from. You know, from your mother giving you up, is that the best option for the child? Or was it the best option for the parents? Or, you know,
mm-hmm,
what situation were they coming from? But I don't think she's ever questioned or been concerned about that. I think it's kind of, she has kind of a half closed adoption. She
mm,
sends them information and does things like that. But I think every time she sends them books of pictures, there's a lot of emotion that comes back to her that it reminds her she's still sharing this child in a way with
mm.
somebody else. You know, all of it's been worth it. She has the two best kids. Her and her husband are the best parents. It's a great thing, but there's a lot of emotions that people don't think about that come with that for her side. And I'm sure her children at one day, if they do want to meet their birth parents.
Yeah, I love though the fact that she's made this something that has been open from the beginning, and you're absolutely right. Every experience is different, and I can't stress that enough, because one of my biggest fears as I go through this process and talk with different people and even share my experience is that I almost want to like start the conversation with, look, everybody's different. So please don't assume that just because this was my story, that's what everyone who's adopted, that's their story. Yes, there are people who have similar experiences or similar parts of experiences, but every one of us is different. And I don't want any parents or adopted parents to feel like this is a negative or this is something that is bad or that they have something to fear. Like it's different, right? It's different for everybody. And so um, okay, so uh, let's fast forward to the day I reached out. I shoot you a message on Facebook Messenger. Where were we? Where were you?
I was sitting at my shop. I was sitting at my desk. There was chaos all going around. It was about midday. And I get the notification on my watch, look down, and I start reading. And I scroll down as far as I can to read. It's kind of a longer message. And I get cut off. There's only so many characters that I can have on my watch. So then I start frantically trying to find which kid has my phone so I can open it up and read the whole thing again. So I get the phone, I start reading this message. I'm not sure how many times I read this message. Do you want me to read it to you?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So I think my heart was beating 100 miles an hour when I read it. I think I had butterflies in my stomach. I read it numerous times, and it says, Brandie, my name is Colby Wilcock. I recently discovered through an Ancestry.com DNA test that I was adopted, and through hours and hours of research by my search angels, we've learned that your mom, Trina Allen, may in fact be my birth mother, or worst case, be able to help me further the research to find my birth parents. I realize this is completely out in left field and pretty heavy. I want to be as sensitive as possible with this. Please know my intention here is only to find out who my birth family is. I'm not expecting anything other than I've got a lot of love to give. That stood out a lot when I just kept reading that part. Um, Let me know if you can help. I've tried sending a message to your mom, but it doesn't look like she's super active in the Facebook world. Very true. And the only number I have is a landline that doesn't seem to work for me.
Can you
And as
believe I
soon as
did
I
that? Can you
read
believe I
that,
just like made a phone call to mom and like what was I gonna say? Like what was she gonna say? Hey,
I don't
I think
know.
I'm your son. Hi.
Or this is a scam, click.
Yeah, exactly,
I don't want to
exactly.
renew my insurance. So just reading it, I read it a few times. And so then I got my kids, put them in my car, and I don't know where I was going. I was coming home. I was doing something. And so first thing I did was call my mom,
Okay, so you were the
and
first one that called
she
mom.
didn't answer. Yep,
Okay.
first one to call her. And I was like, as soon as I had read it, I was like, this has got to be him. I didn't question it. I was super concerned because one, she was in Lake Powell. She had no service. So first thing I did is I call her. She doesn't answer. And I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? So I call Candace. And so I call Candace to tell her, okay, I was thinking in my head, this is our brother. He's found us. What are we going to do? What is mom going to think? So I get home and I call her and I go to open the Facebook message. It's gone. And I wasn't even sure the name. I knew it was Colby. I didn't know the last name. I didn't know how to spell it. I was still rattled a little bit. She's like, what do you mean you don't have the message? I don't have the message. I can't find it. So then I'm still trying to call her mom. Hey, I was just going to tell her, I don't know what to say. How do I respond to him? Because I didn't know who was on the other side of this message. Is this somebody that's been known they've been adopted their whole life? They're just casually looking for their adopted parents? Is this someone that's angry about it? From your message, it doesn't seem that you were angry, but could they be angry about the adoption? Is this somebody that's excited? Had no idea, never thought my mind crossed that you hadn't known that it's been 36 years and you just found out. I wasn't sure what emotions were on the other side of this message, so I didn't know how to answer it back. I didn't know what to say, so that's why I didn't initially, but I was also concerned not to because whoever's on the other end is probably watching their phone for those 3 little dots to start showing up that somebody was typing,
Yeah, you
right?
didn't respond until like
So I'm not
6:30
sure how
that
long.
night. And I was just like, I
Yep.
remember thinking, should I ask somebody else? Should I reach out to someone? And now keep in mind, before I reached out to you, I had asked my friend Colby, who, we've known each other through high school, and really it was just kind of a kinship because of our name. And the fact that her name was Colby and my name was Colby. It was spelled the same, but her last name was started with a W, and my last name started with W. So it was like this funny battle we had all the time. And so I asked her, I'm like, hey, do you think Brandie's gonna freak out if I ask her this question? And she's like, oh no, Brandie's awesome. And so I'm like, I'm just taking a leap here, hoping that I didn't like just scare you to death and terrify you. And then I'm just like, well, I guess I'll just see what happens. So I don't hear anything until you like 6:30 that night.
Oh, I know. And it was hours that me and Candace were trying to look. I was like, I don't know. You just got to work your magic. Find him. I don't know who it is. It's Colby W. Find a Colby W on Facebook. I don't know where he's from. Look in another state. She's trying to find it all. And somehow I found, because it wasn't, the
Mm-hmm.
requested, that we weren't friends on there. So you have to go up and find it. I had no idea. So that's why finally that evening, and I had wrote that back. I had got a hold of mom and I had talked to her for maybe 2 minutes. She had
Wow.
service. And as soon as I called her and her response, I said, Mom, this is the message I just got on Facebook. I didn't even ask a question after that. I didn't even know what to say. She was silent.
Really?
There was silence for a minute. And she said, what? There was kind of shock, and it was kind of like a little bit of humor, like, are you kidding me? Or what's happening? And she goes, well, ask him when his birthday is. Oh, okay, good idea. So that was the next, well, what's your birthday? And then there was no more. We couldn't get a hold of her. Trying to text her, we're trying to call her. Didn't know what to say. And I didn't know how to conversate with you. I don't think I slept the whole first night. I couldn't sleep, and I don't think Candace did either. I didn't know what to say, and I just couldn't I didn't know how to relate to you. What is he feeling on the other end? Nobody's responding. And I'm leaving him hanging. But is it worse to leave him hanging, or is it worse to respond to get his hopes up? Because I didn't know how mom was going
That's
to
a lot of
respond.
pressure you put on yourself.
It's been years and years.
That's a lot of pressure to think about. I really am glad that you recognize that, because you're so right. Like, that could have been just so deflating. Like, if you're like, oh yeah, this is it, and then come to find out, oh, sorry, it's not it. And then I'm just like, oh, so let
Oh,
down.
wait, she doesn't want to meet
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Or, yeah, well, or whether it was her or not. I really thought it was, I just knew. I think we just knew it was you. It was more so, what if mom's not excited? Well, what if mom's not
Yeah.
ready? Or you just don't know. I didn't know how our emotions were going to feel about it, because it had been so many years since we had even
Hmm.
talked to her about it. Obviously, it's an obvious fact afterwards, but it was like, this is very sensitive emotions happening right now. So I think it was that night. And then Candace had found you and she started messaging you. So I think me and her were on the phone for the next 3-4 days constantly. Okay, how are we going to respond? What do we tell him now? Okay, hurry and message him. What's he saying back? We just want to meet him. When's mom going to be home? And I remember her calling on the way home. She's like, I packed up. I'm coming home early. Because I think she was supposed to not come home till Sunday. And she ended up coming home a couple days early. And that first phone call when she had got was driving home from Lake Powell and she got service. She was just emotional. I think it was all just hitting her. I think it was memories, it was emotions. She was feeling a lot and she's like, okay, well, how do I get a hold of him? What
Wow.
do I do? And I just can't imagine. I can't imagine those thoughts and
So
feelings
you
she
and
was having.
Candace kind of went back and forth because after that exchange and I kind of you somewhat confirmed the suspicion. Then really most of the conversations was just me and Candace, and I was worried that I like scared
Yeah.
you or I made you feel uncomfortable, and so I was really nervous, like, oh, is Brandie mad at me, sort of thing. And but so Candace and I kind of go back and forth, and it sounds like you two just kind of talked, and she told you what I said, and then you'd give feedback, and then the two of you just kind of send a message together. Was there any concern on
Yes.
from your perspective, or worry that you had?
I think it was more so just, okay, what do we say that we can say what we can say, but don't
Mm,
say anything for mom? Don't, I think we were just super concerned about your feelings or the situation or how it was going to play out with mom. Was she going to be super excited and receptive that second? We just didn't know. There was no feedback. There was no emotion. Of all the times we needed a quick response from her, she just wasn't there. It was, and then we had a couple days to kind of process it. And it was kind of the end was like, I don't know if it matters what mom's reaction is. We can have our own conversation, our own reaction, feelings to the
so
same situation. But then it was as
no,
soon
I
as we
I
talked
want
to
to
her. Go
I want
ahead.
to speak to that exact um, thought and emotion because you had just you just pretty much confirmed with mom and me that um, this is your other sibling, your older sibling, per se. Um, you've got an older brother now. At that moment and at that point, how did you feel? Because you're the oldest. You're the oldest of the kids, and you've had to play, or you've played that role and been that person for all these years, and now all of a sudden there's an older brother. What was going through your mind specifically?
I think it was more so, okay, when are we going to meet him?
Mm.
Is he going to fit in? How is he? Is he going to be super
Weird
weird? What does
Al,
he like
what
to
is this about?
do? Like, how do you even pronunciate that? How do you even say that? Is he going to fit in? Is he going to mesh well? What does he like to do? And like you say, we
Uh-huh.
started Facebook stalking. But the other thing that was really cool that just to relate and see your story because you had your Facebook page, the
Hmm.
Smallville Meets Krypton, and you already had a ton of information on there. So even going those couple days, we got to read some of your journey already of what you'd been going through. And it was just mind boggling to us, the information and how everything led
Mm.
you to where we were that week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was exciting. We were excited and we're like, okay, well, maybe they just talk on the phone for a couple weeks or they talk for a couple days. We don't know. We need to respect what mom wants to do and how she wants this to play out because this is her situation too. And this is, her feelings first as well. And it was just the first, next thing she said, she's like, I want to meet him. I can't wait any longer. It was just this longing, this desire. I want to meet him right now. And I was like, oh, you do? Okay, well, we're there. Tell us when to be there. Do you want us there? How do you want this to play out? And she was so nervous. She was so
So
excited.
so speaking
I
about
still
that,
remember.
during the week as we were talking about meeting. Um, I I was worried I came on too strong because I was like I can come meet with you guys. I can come out just meet you and Candace, and then you can see that I'm not crazy, and then we can meet mom, and like I was trying to think of all the different possible scenarios of how we could do this because I didn't want mom to feel uncomfortable, And then I think Candace said that mom wanted to meet, but we were trying to figure out when and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh man, that's crazy. Like I was so like anxious about it. And so we talk about the meeting and we set up a time to come meet at mom's house. Now, who's all there? Describe that day from your perspective.
Oh, we were excited. We were kind of nervous. We didn't know who was going to show up. What does this older brother look like? What is this older brother like? Is he going to fit in with us?
Yeah.
Because we're a pretty tight knit family. We do things all the time. Is this something we see him now and then we see him maybe in 6 months from now at Christmas? Like all of these things, we have these conversations all week long. What's it going to be like? So mom sets up, she's like, we're going to do it in the morning. He's going to come. We're going to meet at my house. So we all show up and it's kind of like, well, how does mom feel? And we get there and she was super excited. She got all dressed up and she looked beautiful and she was just pacing in the living room. And I think we saw a car come by. It's like, okay, that wasn't them. That's the neighbor. And then we see a car kind of slowly coming up and turning around the cul-de-sac and she's kind of pacing. And it was very emotional at that point to see how emotional she got and how quick she got emotional.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a super big crier, okay? And right away when she saw the car coming up the road, she just started crying and she just was sitting there and she's holding on to the railing and she's looking out there because the front door was wide open. She was just leaving it open. She goes, I just can't wait. I have to go out there. And she just ran down the stairs and went out there to meet you. She couldn't wait any longer. I think she kind of had this longing. 36 years, I can't imagine as a mother, finally meeting your kid. They're right there across the street. She's like, do I wait for him to come in? What do I do? And she just went out there and you could just see an unexplainable greet of you two. You know what I mean? This longing of both of you. And it was such just something you can't really explain, but the emotion
awesome.
you could
You
feel.
did such a good job of describing that and explaining what was felt there. Because it absolutely was just one of those things that both of us had waited so long for. And I'm so glad that we had that time to just kind of to talk and be together and hear everybody's kind of story. And now mom shared with us that day a little bit about what had happened, where I came from, how that all came about. Was that the first time you'd heard it, or had you heard that before?
I think we had heard most of the details before. I think she went into a little bit more depth just because I don't remember. We were so young, but majority of it she had told us before. Her home situation, decisions, all of that kind of stuff. She had told us most of that before. And I still remember we had to be 15 or 16. I remember that was the last time I remember. I don't think that was the first time of our conversation about you. But
what was your experience like meeting Maggie and I for the first time?
Oh, well, at first it was just super emotional, seeing the emotion that with you and with her. And it was just trying to relate to that experience because that's something you just can't even imagine. A mother and son and being able to meet for the first time and as adults and trying to just not even let go of each other. You know what I mean? It's been so long and it's this new meeting. And we had listened to a lot of your side of the story, and Maggie was great. She was videoing, she was throwing things in. Colby, don't forget this. And well, what about this? So that you had it all documented. It was perfect. And it was after that, I felt like it was a little, going through all those questions and listening to everything. It was also new hearing your side of it and your perspective and what your life has been like. Not knowing, because she has known, that's always been there, but your story's a little bit different on that side of it, being the adopted son. But then after that, we hung out, we ended up going to lunch, and it was just such a natural thing. There was nothing that was forced. You don't mesh with people. You can't always force to mesh with people that well. You can't force those relationships to be that natural, and it was just natural. from the second we stood up, hey, well, what do we do now? Let's go get some food, I guess. So we went to Chubby's and we had lunch and we sat down. And you and Maggie, both of you, it was just such a natural thing that we all felt together. We could have good conversation and it was
I
great.
love
That's the
that.
best way to describe it. Was it was just
I can't
natural.
tell you how long I've struggled with that idea of feeling natural and not feeling this idea that I have to force something. I had to force the idea of spending time.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. It just felt so natural. It felt so normal, and there's every reason in the world for that to feel extremely uncomfortable because it's the first time all of all of us have met each other
Yeah.
and gotten to know each other and we only spent a few hours with each other and yet it just felt like it was just a family getting together and going to lunch. Like it didn't feel like it was it felt like it was something we've done many times before, and and I remember
Yep.
leaving mom's house that day and just feeling that surprise of how natural everything felt and how comfortable everything felt. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe that I've waited that my whole life. And so,
Crazy.
okay, so it's been a couple of
Wow.
years. Um, Share with me your thoughts on the process so far and at this point now. How's it been?
Um, we all fit in so great together. We love you and Maggie and the boys. We're just, like I say, you guys fit right in. It's not like it's a forced thing. We do all of our family stuff together. The little cousins love each other. They get along so well. We get along so well. It's funny to see how it's got to be genetic because of how well all four of us siblings fit in together. Even just, Kobe, your laugh. Kobe's got a loud laugh and it's just the way it is. But you hear any of the uncles or any of mom's side of the family, it's genetic. That's where it comes from. That's where it is. The sense of humor, just your personality, one with Maggie, but two, even your drive in life, the little things that you do in life and the way your mind thinks. There's just we just all fit in so well together and it's such a natural thing. We're so lucky to have all five of you guys in our life. And I think it's been nothing but change for the last 2 years. But even from that first Facebook message, it's been nothing but good for all of us. And we've loved it. It's been 2 years, but gosh, that seems like a long time, but a short time. But it just seems like it's been that way for a long time now. You know what I mean? That we've missed out
Yes,
on a lot, but
we do.
we have so much more to
You're
go.
so
So that's
kind.
what's
You
so
are
exciting
so
about it.
wonderful, Brandy. I'm so grateful for you and how how welcoming you've been to us, and especially to Calvin, and how sweet your girls are with Calvin. And our boys, all of our boys. It's just it means the world to me. And I was telling Candace just how that when someone shows that kind of love to my son and my children and my wife, it just means so much more to me than anything else anyone can do. You can shower me with gifts, you can shower me with compliments, but when you treat my wife and my kids good and kind, that's what matters to me. And I am just so grateful that everyone has been so kind that way. Now, what has been with this transition, as you think about it and think about this process, um, it's fair to say that this has been a little bit of a shake. I mean, it's just because it's like, whoa, okay, all of a sudden we have another whole family, part of the family, and we're trying to figure out, Christmas and holidays and all those kinds of things, and do they do this and do they do that? But what do you feel like has been the hardest part of this adjustment or this transition?
Geez, I don't know if I feel like anything's been hard about the transition or um like I say, it's been changed because we have this whole new great family that's a part of our family that we do everything with now. But I don't think I can think of something that's been hard. Um,
Okay, no, that's okay.
I can't.
Um,
I don't know if I can think of anything.
what advice do you have for someone who is maybe go like, let's look at, in fact, your friend who has adopted children. If they were to go and search for their birth family and go through that process, what would you share with them before they started searching, or if they before they met them? What would you share with them? Mm,
Maybe kind of like what I said before. One is be prepared for change. You don't know anybody's situation. Like I said, from that very first message that I opened, what situation is on the other end of this message? Is this a good situation? Is it a bad situation? Is it a welcoming situation? So there's the change aspect. And then if you're going to do it, I think just be ready for, even if the other side can't be, but that openness, that honest and truthfulness, that the honesty, that go with that from the beginning if you can. I think that that's your best bet to do and to use, and be ready for the emotion. I think there's a lot of emotion that we've seen and experienced in the last 2 years. All amazing, all great. It's been the best, but there is still a lot of emotion. Even trying to put ourselves one in situation, or like mom's situation.
mhm.
How did she feel? That brings up a lot of emotion as a parent. Can you relate to her? Can you understand that as an adopted child? Can you understand where your parents were, whether, it was the best for you or it wasn't?
Yeah,
Can you understand that? Can you put yourself in that situation? I think
absolutely.
all the
No, that's
emotions
that's
that come with it from
fantastic.
every aspect, right?
Well, we're so grateful that you were willing to share your perspective and be part of the show. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we close?
Um, I don't think so. I think we kind of shared it all, and thank you so much for letting me be on here and kind of share my side of the
We
story and
love you
what we've
too.
been going
Thanks,
through.
Brandie.
And we just love you guys.